Hey, I'm Emma. Welcome to Emma's Betrayal Stories now. Before we start, go grab a snack and get comfortable for a bit. These stories aren't rushed, they're the kind you sit with. Today's story comes with an update and my own personal opinions throughout the story. Let me know in the comments if you agree or see it differently. Let's begin.
After my family disowned me, I created a new life full of friends who truly care about me. My father's voice hit the wall and came back at me like it belonged to someone else. If you walk out that door, you're not my daughter anymore. The living room felt too bright, like the lamp above the family photos was interrogating me. My palm was slick on the handle of my suitcase, and I could taste the metallic bite of adrenaline at the back of my tongue. My mother was standing by the hallway mirror with her hands twisted together like she was trying to wring an apology out of her own fingers. My brother, Liam, was on the couch with his ankle crossed over his knee, watching me like this was a show he'd paid for. I tried to speak, and my throat made this tiny, embarrassing sound, half laugh, half choke, because my body didn't know which kind of breakdown to choose. "Dad," I managed, "I'm not stealing from you. I'm just not giving him my savings." Liam's mouth lifted at one corner. "Hear that?" he said, soft and mocking. "She thinks it's hers." It was a Tuesday night, and I'd only come over because my mom had texted, "Please, just dinner." No fighting. I should have known that sentence in my family was basically an invitation to a fire. I'm 31 now, and I know how this story looks from the outside. Grown woman, suitcase, dramatic ultimatum, parents acting like they're starring in a telenovela. But the truth is it didn't start on Tuesday. It started years ago, in small scenes that trained everyone in my house to treat my life like a resource they could allocate. I'm the oldest. Liam is 2 years younger. When we were kids, Liam was sensitive and misunderstood, and I was responsible and mature. That sounds like a compliment until you realize responsible meant I was expected to absorb chaos quietly. If Liam forgot his lunch, I'd get scolded for not reminding him. If Liam snapped at my mom, my dad would say, "He's under pressure," and then look at me like I was supposed to ease it. If I cried, I was dramatic. If I argued, I was disrespectful. I learned early that love in my house came with terms and conditions, and the terms were usually written in invisible ink. I left for university and never really came back. I paid my way through with part-time jobs, scholarships, and the kind of stubbornness that makes you double-check your bank account before you buy a coffee. I worked at a little marketing agency after graduation, climbed into a decent role, and eventually moved into project coordination for a construction firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. It was mine. I started saving properly. Not, "I'll save whatever's left," saving, real saving. Direct debit. Emergency fund. A future that didn't depend on anyone's mood. Liam, meanwhile, floated. He started courses and dropped them. He had business ideas that never survived past the first expensive purchase. My parents called it finding himself. When he was 25 and still living at home, my mom still did his laundry. My dad still paid his car rego. Every time I hinted that maybe this wasn't helping him, my mom would go tight in the face and say, "Don't be cruel." Cruel in my family meant refusing to enable. The night it all blew up, my mom served roast chicken like she was trying to normalize the feeling of a trap closing. We ate around the same table we'd eaten at my whole life. The same chipped corner. The same framed family prayer on the wall. Liam talked about a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He'd found a friend who could get him into a property deal. He needed a deposit. "Just temporarily," he said, smiling at my parents first, then turning to me like we were co-conspirators. "You've got savings, right?" I stared at him, then at my parents, waiting for someone to say, "No, Liam, you can't ask that." My dad cleared his throat. My mom's eyes got shiny, which in my family is the universal symbol for "don't challenge me." Liam slid a printed document across the table. It wasn't even subtle. It was a draft agreement he'd typed up, with my name at the bottom like my money had already volunteered. "It's basically an investment," he said. "You'll get it back. Probably with profit." I didn't even touch the paper. "No," I said. The room changed. It always does when you say no in a family built on one person never saying it. Liam let out a long breath like I'd insulted him personally. Seriously, he said. After everything we've been through? What have we been through? I asked before I could stop myself. You mean after Mom and Dad paid for your car, your courses, your rent, your everything, and I've been on my own since I was 18? My mom's fork clattered. Why are you keeping score? She demanded, like the numbers were the rude part. My dad stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Liam's cheeks flushed. So that's how you see it, he said. You think you're better. I think my savings are mine, I said, and my voice was shaking, which made me angry at myself because it sounded weak. I'm not funding another one of your opportunities. Liam looked at my dad. Tell her, he said, like he was calling in a referee. My dad put his hands flat on the table. Family helps family, he said. You have money sitting there doing nothing. Liam is trying to build a future. I'm trying to build my future, I said. And I'm not doing it by handing over what I've worked for. My mom's eyes filled. I can't believe you're like this, she said, voice cracking with accusation. You've changed. I did change. That was the whole point. But in that moment, it sounded like a crime. Liam stood up fast enough that his chair scraped.
Fine, he said.
If you want to be selfish, be selfish. But don't come crying when you need something. I laughed once, bitter. I don't, I said. That's literally the problem. I don't come crying. I solve my own stuff. And I'm done being punished for it. That's when my dad did the ultimatum. The line. The one from the beginning. He said it like he'd been waiting years for the chance to cut me down to size. And the worst part was, for half a second, I almost folded. I almost apologized just to make the room stop vibrating with anger. Then I looked at Liam's face. Not upset, not hurt, satisfied. Like he'd finally gotten proof that my independence was something they all resented. So I stood up, walked down the hallway, and pulled my suitcase from the spare room closet where I'd stored it after a work trip. My hands shook so much I dropped the zipper twice. My mom followed me, whispering, "Please don't do this, please don't do this." But it didn't sound like she was asking them not to disown me. It sounded like she was asking me not to make her choose. In the doorway, my dad said, "You're making a mistake." I said, "No, I'm making a decision."
And I left.
I cried in my car in the driveway for exactly 3 minutes. I know because the dashboard clock was stuck 5 minutes slow, and I kept staring at it like it could tell me what to do. After that, something in me hardened. Not into cruelty, into clarity. I drove back to my apartment and threw my suitcase on the floor and sat on the kitchen tiles because my legs wouldn't work properly. The next day, my mom texted, "Your father is devastated. Liam is heartbroken. We need space. Don't contact us until you're ready to apologize." It was such a clean rewrite, I almost admired it. In their version, I wasn't the one who got threatened with exile over my own money. I was the villain for not handing it over. So I stopped trying. At first, being disowned felt like walking around with a bruise on the inside of my ribcage. Everything looked normal, work emails, traffic, grocery aisles. But my body kept waiting for my phone to ring with my mother's voice pretending nothing happened. I'd pick up my phone just to check if they'd unblocked me. Then I'd feel stupid and angry and tired. The surprising thing was how quickly other people noticed my silence. My friend Tasha, who I met at work years ago and who has the kind of laugh that makes strangers turn around, showed up at my apartment with a bag of hot chips and 2 iced coffees like she was delivering medicine. She didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't ask for the whole story first. She just sat on my couch, kicked off her shoes, and said, "Okay, start from the part that hurts the most." I told her, and I expected to feel embarrassed. Instead, I felt seen. Like I'd finally said something out loud that had been choking me quietly for years. Then Priya got involved. Priya is my neighbor. Thin walls, shared hallway, mutual nods turned into actual conversations after we both got caught in the building lobby during a power outage. When she heard, she didn't do sympathy. She did logistics. "Do they have access to your accounts?" she asked. "Do they know your banking stuff?" Change it. Today. She came over with her laptop and sat at my kitchen table like my life was a project plan. We changed passwords, updated beneficiaries, turned on two-factor authentication. She made me write down emergency contacts that weren't my family. Who do you want to be called if something happens? She asked. I opened my mouth and then closed it because the automatic answer, Mom, felt like touching a live wire. Priya tapped her pen against the paper. Pick someone who actually shows up, she said. So I wrote Tasha's name. And Priya's. And later, Jules, my friend from the gym, who pretends she's tough, but cries at dog rescue videos. 3 names. 3 people who hadn't demanded anything from me to be kind. When Christmas rolled around, I didn't know what to do with myself. I hovered in shopping centers like a ghost, watching families argue over wrapping paper. My mom used to make this weird almond biscuit that only tasted good because it meant the house smelled like something other than tension. I kept expecting to miss them so much it would knock me over. I did miss them, but what knocked me over was something else. How peaceful my apartment felt without constantly preparing for someone's disappointment. Tasha invited me to her family Christmas lunch. I said no at first, reflexively. I didn't want to be someone's charity case. She stared at me and said, You're not a charity case. You're my friend.
Come eat.
So I went. Her aunt pinched my cheek and called me darling. Her cousin asked about my job and actually listened. Someone handed me a plate and told me where to sit, like I belonged there without needing to earn it. Halfway through lunch, I went to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror because I felt disoriented. Like my body didn't know how to exist in a room where love wasn't conditional. That year became the year I accidentally built a new family. It wasn't one dramatic montage. It was small, consistent things, Priya texting me, soup's on my stove if you want some. Jules dropping off a spare fan when my aircon died. Tasha calling me at 9 p.m. just to complain about her boss. People letting me be messy without turning it into ammunition. I started therapy, partly because Priya practically shoved me into it. In one session, my therapist asked, What do you think you did wrong? I stared at the carpet and said, automatically, I should have handled it better. She tilted her head. Handled what? And I heard myself say, not letting them take my money. Like it was a mistake I made. That's when I realized how deep the programming went. The part that still makes my stomach twist is that my family didn't just cut me off. They tried to replace me, like erasing a line on a whiteboard. I saw it on social media from cousins who didn't know I'd blocked half of them. Photos of family dinner with Liam sitting in my seat. Captions about my son stepping up. They weren't grieving my absence. They were celebrating my compliance being removed. Then, 8 months after that Tuesday night, I got a message from an unknown number. Hi, Elena. This is Dad. Call me. It took me a full minute to breathe. My fingers hovered over the screen. My heart did this stupid, hopeful leap, like a dog hearing a familiar car. I didn't call. I texted. What do you need? He replied, Your mother is unwell. My stomach dropped. I hate how fast I went into emergency mode. I hate how love turns into obligation in my body because it learned that's what love costs. I asked what was wrong. He said stress and blood pressure and it would mean a lot if you came by.
No apology. No acknowledgement.
Just a tug on the old rope. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my phone face down and my hands wrapped around a mug of tea that went cold. Tasha sat across from me and didn't rush me. Priya leaned against the counter, arms folded, watching me like she could see my thoughts playing out. Jules showed up late with takeaway containers because she'd heard through Tasha and, in her words, I'm not letting you spiral on an empty stomach. I looked at these 3 women, my accidental chosen family, and I felt something I didn't expect. Anger. Not at them. At the fact that my own parents could summon me with a vague health scare after months of silence, like I was still on call. I don't know what to do, I admitted, voice small. Priya said, Do you want to go because you love your mother, or because you're scared of being the bad daughter? That question landed like a weight, because the honest answer was, Both. And then my phone lit up again. A new message from Liam, this time from the same unknown number. If you come, don't bring your attitude. Mom doesn't need your negativity. I stared at it until the words blurred. And that's where I'm stopping for a second, because the next part is where my old life tried to pull me back in hard, and my new life finally pulled me forward. Okay, I need to say this clearly. Liam is not misunderstood. Liam is a professional leech who learned early that if he makes enough noise, someone else will pay. People like him love the idea of family because it means guaranteed access. They don't love the people. They love the entitlement. The audacity of using my dad's phone to text me like a puppet and then immediately following it with "don't bring your attitude" is honestly impressive in a disgusting way. That's not concern for my mom. That's control. It's get back in your place dressed up as be respectful. My parents are their own category of exhausting. My dad's approach is basically, I'm the authority, so my feelings are fact. That ultimatum line wasn't a heat-of-the-moment mistake. It was his worldview leaking out. Obedience equals love. My mom's weapon is guilt. She's the kind of person who will cry while she hands you the knife she expects you to stab yourself with. She wants peace, but only the kind of peace that keeps Liam comfortable. And me? I'm mad at myself in the way you get mad at someone you love. Because my first instinct was still to run back and prove I'm good. That's what growing up like this does. It trains you to confuse being needed with being valued. The only reason I'm not back in that living room right now is because I finally have people around me who don't benefit from me shrinking. Update. So I ended up going. Not because Liam told me to. Not because my dad summoned me like I'm a spare part. I went because my mom is my mom, and I needed to look her in the eye and make my own decision instead of letting fear decide for me. But I didn't go alone. Tasha drove. Priya came too because she said, if they try to corner you, I'm not letting you do it without backup. Jules stayed on standby at my apartment with my spare key and a promise that if I texted her a single word, out, she'd call me with a fake emergency. I know that sounds dramatic, but if you've never had to build an exit plan for a conversation with your own family, consider yourself lucky. In the car, my stomach was doing that drop and rise thing like I was on a roller coaster. I kept rubbing my thumb over the seam of my jeans, a nervous habit I didn't realize I still had. Tasha didn't fill the silence with pep talks. She just said, we can leave whenever you want. No explanation required. And weirdly, that made me feel calmer than any motivational speech ever could. When we pulled into my parents' driveway, the house looked the same hedge, same porch light that always flickers, same little ceramic frog by the door my mom insists is cute. My body wanted to time travel. I could almost feel myself becoming 19 again, stepping carefully, trying to anticipate moods. My dad opened the door before we even knocked, like he'd been watching through the curtain. He saw Priya and Tasha behind me and his face tightened. Who are they? He asked, like they were unauthorized guests. My friends, I said. They're driving me. His gaze flicked over them, then back to me. We don't need an audience, he said. I felt that old instinct flare, apologize, soothe, make it easier for him. Instead I said, then we can leave. His mouth opened, then closed. He stepped aside. Inside, the living room smelled like antiseptic wipes and overbrewed tea. My mom was on the couch with a blanket over her legs. She looked smaller than I expected. Pale. Tired. When she saw me, her face crumpled in a way that made something tender twist inside me despite everything. Elena, she whispered. I walked over slowly, keeping my distance at first because I didn't trust the situation yet. Hi, Mom, I said. She reached out like she wanted to grab my hand, then hesitated like she wasn't sure she was allowed. That hesitation hit me harder than if she demanded it, because it was the first time I'd ever seen her unsure of her access to me. My dad hovered near the armchair, arms crossed. Liam was in the dining area, leaning against the doorway like he was supervising. Priya stayed near the entrance, quiet but present. Tasha sat on the edge of the other couch, posture relaxed but eyes sharp. My mom started crying immediately. I've been so worried, she said. This family, it's falling apart. I waited. I didn't rush to fix it. That silence felt like holding a heavy bag with straight arms, but I held it. My dad cleared his throat. You could have prevented all of this, he said, and I swear I felt my lungs freeze. Tasha's head snapped toward him, but she didn't speak. Priya's eyebrows lifted slightly, like, here we go. I looked at my dad. By giving Liam my savings? I asked. My dad's jaw tightened. By not being stubborn, he said. Liam let out a small laugh, like the punchline had arrived.
See, he said.
Still the same. Something in me clicked. Not rage. Not panic. Just this calm certainty that my new life had taught me. I turned to Liam and said, You used Dad's phone to text me. Liam shrugged. So, he said, he wanted you here. Did he? I said, looking at my dad. Or, did you? My dad's eyes flicked away for half a second, and that told me everything. My mum's crying got louder. Please, she said, don't fight. And there it was. The cycle. My mum begging for peace, my dad demanding obedience, Liam stirring it all like he lives off the heat. I sat down across from my mum, keeping my voice low. Mum, I said, I came because I care about you. I did not come to be blamed. I did not come to apologize for not being financially exploited. Liam scoffed. Exploited, he repeated. You hear yourself? Priya spoke for the first time very calmly. Accessing someone's savings because you feel entitled is exploitation, she said.
No emotion. Just fact.
It was like watching someone pour cold water on a grease fire. My dad's face went red. This is not your business, he snapped at Priya. It's my business because you made it her burden, Priya replied, still calm. And she's my friend. That word, friend, hung in the air like a foreign language in my parents' house. My mum wiped her cheeks. She looked at me and said, We just wanted help. Liam needs support. I took a slow breath. Liam has had support, I said. He has had constant support. I'm not his safety net. Liam pushed off the doorway and stepped forward. You think you're so special now, he said, voice rising. You think because you have your little friends and your job, you can act like you don't need us. I surprised myself by laughing. Not mean. Not hysterical. Just genuine disbelief. I don't need you, I said. That's what you hate. And I'm done pretending that makes me a bad person. My dad pointed at the door. If you talk like this in my house. I stood up. My hands were shaking, but my voice stayed steady. Then I'll leave, I said. I'm not a child you can threaten. My mum made a small sound, like she was about to beg. I softened, just a little, because she looked genuinely unwell and I'm not made of stone. Mum, I said, I will check on you. I'll talk to you one-on-one if you want. But I will not be in the same room as Liam if the goal is to guilt me into funding his life. Liam's face twisted. So you're cutting me off? He demanded, like I was canceling a subscription. I'm not a service, I said. Priya and Tasha stood too, ready. I walked to the door. My dad followed, muttering about disrespect. Liam was already talking loud about how I'd changed and how my friends were poisoning me. That part almost made me laugh again because imagine thinking someone being treated well is poison. On the porch, my mum called my name. I turned back. She was standing in the doorway, blanket slipping off her shoulders. She looked torn in half by loyalty and fear. I love you, she said, voice thin. My throat burned. I love you too, I said. But I'm not coming back to be hurt. In the car, my whole body started shaking like it had been holding itself together with tape. Tasha handed me a water bottle. Priya stared out the window for a long moment and then said, You did it. What? I whispered. You left without begging, she said. You left without shrinking. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exhausted. But underneath the exhaustion was something new, relief. Like I'd finally stopped carrying a weight I didn't sign up for. Over the next week, my mum texted me privately. Not a full apology.
Not yet.
But different.
Softer.
She asked how work was. She asked if I was eating. She didn't mention money. My dad stayed silent. Liam posted a vague rant on social media about betrayal, and blood means nothing these days. I blocked him and didn't look back. And my friends, my real friends, did what they always do. Jules came over with groceries and made me laugh despite myself. Priya helped me update my emergency contact list and made sure my parents didn't have access to anything important. Tasha planned a small dinner at her place with candles and music and the kind of warmth my childhood home never managed, without strings attached. At that dinner, I looked around the table at the people who chose me without demanding I pay for the privilege, and I realized something that made my chest ache in a good way. Being disowned didn't destroy me. It freed me. Back to the story to finish it off. The last piece of this was me deciding what family meant going forward. A month after that visit, my dad emailed me. Not a call. Not a face-to-face. An email like I was a colleague he didn't respect but had to communicate with. It was 2 paragraphs long. The first was about how hurt everyone was. The second was about how your mother would like you at Sunday lunch.
No apology. No accountability.
Not even a hint that the ultimatum was wrong. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I wrote back one sentence. I'm available to rebuild a relationship when it includes respect and an apology for disowning me. He didn't reply. My mom did, later, privately. I'm sorry for what I said, she texted. I didn't protect you. I read it 5 times. It wasn't perfect. It didn't rewrite our whole past. But it was the first time she'd named the truth instead of asking me to carry it quietly. I cried, not because everything was fixed, but because I'd stopped believing I'd ever hear those words. I still didn't go to Sunday lunch. Not yet. I'm not interested in back to normal. Normal was the problem. Instead, I kept building my new life. I took a short holiday with my friends and learned what it felt like to laugh without scanning the room for consequences. I hosted my first Friendsgiving-style dinner in my apartment. I cooked too much pasta, burned the garlic bread, and we ate it anyway. Priya brought a ridiculous dessert that looked like a science experiment. Jules made a toast that started sincere and turned into a roast. Tasha put her hand on my shoulder at one point, squeezed, and said, "Look at you." I looked around the room, my tiny apartment filled with noise, warmth, safe chaos. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was borrowing love. I felt like I belonged. Liam is the kind of person who calls himself family-oriented when what he really means is, I expect lifelong access to whatever you have. He didn't want a relationship with me. He wanted leverage. The deposit request was never just about money. It was a loyalty test. In Liam's world, love equals compliance, and any boundary is a betrayal. The "don't bring your attitude" text is pure Liam, demanding humility from the very person he's trying to drain. He deserves exactly what he's terrified of. Being treated like an adult who has to live with the consequences of his own choices. My dad is the classic authoritarian parent who mistakes control for care. That ultimatum line wasn't protective. It was possessive. He'd rather lose a daughter than lose authority. And honestly, that's a fragile kind of pride. The fact he tried to summon me back with guilt instead of apology tells you everything about how he sees relationships. You return to your role, or you don't return at all. I hope he eventually realizes respect isn't something you can demand with threats. It's something you earn by acting like the person you expect others to honor. My mom is the hardest one to judge because she's both victim and accomplice. She's not the one who delivered the ultimatum, but she stood in the doorway and watched it happen. She used tears the way some people use fists, not to hurt on purpose, but to get the outcome she wants. Her apology mattered, not because it fixed everything, but because it finally admitted the truth she'd been dodging for years. If she keeps choosing honesty over comfort, there might be something salvageable there. If she slides back into keep the peace at any cost, she'll keep losing me. And Elena, the narrator me, is a perfect example of how being strong can become another cage. I wasn't weak for wanting to go back. I was trained. The real win wasn't a dramatic revenge moment. It was the quiet, brutal act of not begging to be treated decently. The best characters in this whole story are the friends. Tasha, Priya, Jules, the chosen family who didn't demand a sacrifice to prove love. That's the point, really. Sometimes the family you're born into teaches you what love should cost. The family you choose teaches you it doesn't have to cost you yourself.